Welcome to You Rising, the podcast for women by women, in which we explore what it means to be rising women in today's world. I'm your host, Lorianne Rising. I'm an international award-winning author, spiritual, and intuitive mentor for women. And today is Rising Woman Wednesday, where we feature a woman who has faced life-changing events and found a way to be and become a better person for it. And the spotlight of the week is Bai-Leigh Chapman. Bai-Leigh is a highly experienced and passionate virtual assistant with over 5 years experience working in a corporate setting before building her own business from the ground up in 2017. In the past 2.5 years, she has gone from a toxic 9-to-5 job to a successful 6-figure business she built from scratch. Bai-Leigh's drive for success and ability to set and reach goals is the reason behind her ability to build lasting relationships with her clients. She's always going above and beyond, and these unique to her qualities are what set her apart from many others in her field. And I am so excited to welcome Bai-Leigh. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Well, I'm excited. Our little chit chat before the show, it sounds like you and I have a lot in common. So and we could chat forever, but we'll try to keep it focused. So I know you had a transition happen that took you out of the corporate world and really into doing your own business. And I'm curious if you could just share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, definitely. So the transition wasn't exactly my idea, but in November of 2017, so it's actually coming up on my anniversary very soon, I ended up getting let go unexpectedly from my corporate 9-to-5 job. The business ended up unfortunately going into a bit of financial trouble and they weren't able to keep me. And so I kind of decided at that moment that I wasn't going to put my fate into someone else's hands. It was kind of like the rug was ripped out from under me. It was definitely not my favorite day in my life. And so from there, I kind of decided that I wanted to take my life into my own hands, and I ended up looking up virtual assistants and working from home because I also live in snowy, very cold Canada, and in the wintertime, it is very dangerous at times to be driving. So I really wanted a work from home job. I'm also very introverted, so it just spoke to my heart. And I found virtual assisting, and I figured now is the best time for me to try this, to get into this business. I'll give it a couple months, see how it goes. And if I'm not able to do it, I have lots of corporate experience. I can go ahead and try the corporate side out again.
Nice. I know what it's like to be a really great employee, be doing everything right, and then come to work one day and basically be handed a box to clear off your desk.
Yeah.
And that pit in your stomach is, at least that's where I felt it anyway, it's just sickening. And so, and I know, especially after this year and everything that has gone on and so many people being laid off and businesses closing, I have a feeling there are a lot of people who really understand that feeling. So I'm curious, how long did it really take you to decide to shift and move forward? I mean, was it, what is that process like? Because I know for me, it took a couple of weeks to kind of process the grief and the anger and the frustration and all of that comes up. And I think I was so frustrated one day, not paying attention. I fell down my stairs, and that,
oh my goodness,
that kind of stuff happens when you're in this other place. So how was that for you, those, that transitional moment?
It was a lot like yours. I think I went through kind of like the 5 or 6 stages of grief, and just kind of losing my job and having everything kind of fall apart. I am very much a planner, so I always have a plan. I always like to be safe. I always like to have income coming in, and then having that right before Christmas too was just like a stab to the heart. I definitely went through days. The first couple of days after I got let go, I did not, I wasn't like jump back up and let's become a virtual assistant. It took me a couple of days of wallowing in self-pity. There were a lot of tears. There was a lot of self-doubt on my end, because I too thought I was an amazing employee. I would get to work a half hour before everybody else. I would be the last one out of the office. I would know how to do every single thing. And, everybody came to me for everything. And I really loved the dependability as well. And so I thought in that dependability, it would kind of cement my job, which was not the case. Everybody is, expendable at times. So for me, it took a couple of days. Well, I would say the first week was really rough. I would go through the stages of grief. One day I would be okay. The next day I would be just really upset. And then I'd get angry. And then I would, have this like really shame spiral, self-doubt. And it really took my friends and family to kind of like just rile beside me and really kind of encourage me and tell me that it wasn't my fault. And just like their constant support was a big reason why I ended up starting and doing what I wanted to do. A lot of my friends and family wanted me to play it safe, and they wanted me to go get another job right away. I had my boyfriend at the time. He knew that I wanted to do something more, and he could see in me that I wanted to do something more. And so he was the one that convinced me actually not kind of going against my friends, my family. He was like, you need to do this. You need to try this for 2 months. This is what you want to do. I think you're going to be amazing at it, and just kind of give it a shot. You have a little bit of savings. Don't worry about Christmas, just get through the nest 2 months, see if you can do it. And he knew that I would be able to do it. I personally didn't think I could, but it was just an incredible kind of, after about the 2-week mark, I think there was a shift mentally in after everybody telling me that I could do these things. And I would bring it up to some friends and family, and they were a little skeptical, but they were supportive. And just like the push of my boyfriend, I was just like, let's try this. I feel very supported. I feel very loved. I can do this.
Nice. I love that you had that support around you, because I think not everybody does.
No.
And that can be an extra challenge. And so it's really wonderful. And I want to just comment briefly on, and it's so common, we all do it. But this idea of wallowing in the self-pity, I took on a practice years ago that when I found myself in those spaces, to completely embrace it and give myself a pity party for 3 days. And take the weekend and just completely embrace it, whatever it takes. And I realized that as soon as I gave myself permission to be there, it shifted much faster. It was so fascinating. Like, I didn't need the 3 days, but if I didn't give myself permission to do that, it would last sometimes for weeks. And so I'm like, okay, it's not shifting any other way. I'm just going to have a pity party all weekend. It sort of became comical, which might actually have been part of why it shifted. But I really, that space is so, I want to say, important, actually, because there is the grief that comes with those massive transitions and, feeling blindsided. And to work through that is a necessary part of the process. And so that permissioned based feeling, I think, is so important for all of us. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love that you experimented. So often we find ourselves like, I have to make this decision. And it's like this mental space of like, I've made this decision and there's nothing else. And it's actually, my understanding is the root of decide is to cut off. And we get in that space psychologically, like, and stop ourselves from deciding anything. And so again, I think that experimentation mindset allows us permission to keep deciding new things. And that is so important. I love that you brought that up. I love that your boyfriend did that with and for you and gave you that space. I think that's so important. That is really cool.
Yeah, it was incredible. And just also the feeling that I had knowing that I had different options and I kind of had things to fall back on, and I wasn't just, putting all of my eggs in one basket. I had a plan B. I probably could have had a plan C at some point. It just made the decision so much easier for me to try it. And of course, with the support of my boyfriend and my friends and family, that was really the big thing. And for people that don't have that support, my heart goes out to you, because that is one of the main reasons why I have my business today. And I think if I didn't have that support and those different options provided to me, I would probably maybe be back in the same situation again, with everybody getting let go because of COVID, or just stuck in something that I am absolutely miserable in. Because now that I am out of the toxic 9 to 5, I realize how actually toxic it was.
It's amazing what we adapt to when we have to, or when we don't know any different. It is absolutely incredible. And it's amazing to me that we get ourselves trapped there without knowing it, following all the shoulds, following all that, everything we've ever been taught, and breaking those illusions of the have-tos can be profoundly difficult, but also profoundly freeing. And it sounds like maybe that was part of the process for you. I don't know if you would perceive it that way or not. I'm actually curious what your perception would be of some of that.
I think that would be a good way. My process was just a lot of kind of confidence building. That was a lot of my process, confidence building and learning, because I obviously went into starting my business with no knowledge of, I knew what a virtual assistant was. I had no idea how to run a business. Fortunately, my previous job had equipped me a little bit on how to run a business, but I was not the one that was doing it. So I think for me, my process was just learning as much as I could about it, getting comfortable with it, having that support that I needed, and really just diving in was my process, which is kind of crazy to say, but I'm more of like
learn by doing.
I learned by doing, exactly. And so that was kind of like, that was the main part of my process, I would say, is I just kind of dove in and was like, it's now or never. Let's get it.
Nice. So what kind of inner work was required for you in terms of, mindset and beliefs, and possibly maybe even some of the things that came up where you realized, yeah, that's not going to work, I got to shift it, type of stuff. What was that like for you?
So I actually think the first little while in my business, I was doing okay, but I wasn't doing amazing. I was paying the bills, which was my goal, but I found at about the 6-month mark, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, and I didn't feel like I truly belonged and I deserved what I was getting. And so it took a lot of mindset work. I still practice mindset every single day. And I think I noticed when I started doing positive mindset work and shifting my mindset to abundance and to positivity versus a scarcity mindset or everything that went wrong, oh, it's the worst day in the world, like just very, very negative. Once I started shifting that, and it is not easy, but it takes a little bit of time. But as I started this like abundance shift and away from the scarcity and the positivity and just practicing gratitude and being grateful for everything that I have, I actually saw a big surge in my business. And that kind of just really solidified to me how important this inner work was, how important the mindset work is. And there are still times where I will allow myself a pity party day. I don't allow myself a weekend. I'll only allow myself a day. But there are days where I will, I'll allow, it's been a really bad day. And I actually had this a couple weeks ago. I ended up I had some really odd abdominal pains. I ended up in the hospital a couple times. And the day that I started feeling better, I went to go visit a friend because I hadn't been able to travel or do anything for a week. The day I went to visit a friend, I got a flat tire, and then I was trapped at their place. The power went out and I had nothing. I hadn't brought my laptop or anything to work. So I'm stranded at their house, can't work or do anything. It was, after all of this kind of really unfortunate week that I had, and then it was that day, and then I was really tempted to fall back into the everything sucks, this is the worst day,
Mm,
why is this happening to me? And instead I pulled some really positive things out of it, meaning I got to spend more time with some friends that I hadn't seen, a friend that I hadn't seen in a while. And fortunately, my tire had become flat in their driveway. So I was really fortunate that it didn't happen on the side of the road. I wasn't stranded. I wasn't, there was a
mhm.
lot of positive things that I could have pulled out of a very unfortunate situation. And if I look back at myself 3 years ago, whenever I first started doing all of this inner work and starting my business, I would have never done that.
Mm.
I would have done the week pity party, this week has been horrible, and just made a lot of other domino effects likely happen where they'd be negative as well.
Nice. Well, that is a true testament to having not just done the inner work a little bit to get the ball rolling, but to have continued it on an ongoing basis so that it has
Mhm.
become an automatic for you. Because those thoughts are always going to tempt you. It's a matter of whether or not you give in to them
Always.
and what you do with them when they're there and how you manage that. And that's a skill, I think, that we build. So
Mhm.
I appreciate
And it's not
you.
easy.
No, it's not. It's really not. And I think, for some people it's easier than others, and others have a more difficult time. I know people with, chronic anxiety have a much harder time, and there's other
Mhm.
factors that contribute to that. But it is an ongoing practice that can really help. So I love that you're doing that for yourself. And I imagine it helps your relationships as well. Is that,
Mhm.
have you noticed shifts there also? Or is it just really your business?
No, I have noticed personal shifts in relationships as well. And I have also noticed the type of energy that my friends and family kind of like let out to me as well. I've
Mm.
noticed that I have a couple of friends and family around me that are very, very negative people. And I notice how much that affects my mindset whenever I'm around them as well. And
Mm.
so I have made a lot of shifts in my personal life as well, where I don't spend as much time with these negative people. I don't let them bring me down in a way, and I kind of will distance myself a little bit from them. Or I have also noticed some of my friends have kind of seen the shift in me and have asked me about it and how I achieved it, and I've actually given them advice as to how to shift their mindset and kind of let them understand a lot more about mindset work as well, because I find that not a lot of people realize that your mindset is 80% of your success, and that's in an
Mm.
office job, that is in entrepreneurship, that is in your personal life, that is in everything. And that was one big takeaway that I got when I started my business, is just realizing how my mindset had suffered so much
Mm.
over the previous years and how I needed to get myself out of those toxic ways.
Nice. What a beautiful distinction to make. And just for comparison's sake, I mean, you've referred to the toxic environment versus now. And what's toxic for one is a little bit different for somebody else. We all,
Mhm.
have different needs and desires and expectations, and all of that, I think, contributes. So when you talk about that environment you came out of, how was it toxic for you?
For me personally, I worked mainly with men, and there's nothing against that. Men are great leaders, women are great leaders. But I found that I wasn't respected
Mm.
as an assistant. My ideas were not respected. My suggestions were not respected. I would suggest something that would either save money or save time in the business that would become more efficient. And I would get a response from someone. I'm actually quoting verbatim here: "I'm the boss, you do as I say."
Mm.
Whenever I would
Ouch.
suggest something. Yeah. So that was something that I would get quite often. And I was always referred to as the assistant, the assistant.
Mm.
When I was actually an office manager and I ran a lot of the business most of the time. Just because I'm sure anyone who works in executive level type stuff, they know how important the office manager or the executive
Uh,
assistant is to the business.
I would say, having been in that role and seen it for myself, like if you're not treating the assistant well, your business could just disappear overnight, because the assistant is the
Mm-hmm.
one who has all the passwords, all of the opportunity to interact and say whatever is, I mean, if they're willing to lose their job over it, they can do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
damage if you're not treating them well.
Indeed.
And they're the gatekeeper. So they can
Mm-hmm.
do the subtle little thing of, I just, won't let that call through today inadvertently, or things
Yeah.
like that. And I think somebody who's truly professional will not do those things. But it is fascinating how badly some companies will treat somebody with that much power.
Mm-hmm.
Really, people always think
Yeah.
it's the CEO, or the person you're assisting who has all the power, and they do have a lot, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that assistant is key, is absolutely key. It is amazing to me. And I can't, there's a part of me that just wants to say, I can't believe you were treated that way. And yet I know better. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, having been there, I know better.
And to me, whenever I was there, that was okay for me. That was normal. That wasn't a problem. Like there wasn't any red flags going on in my head. Whenever, one of the people that I assisted would tell me those things. Fortunately, I will clarify, it wasn't the CEO that said that to me. It was another person that I assisted in an executive capacity at the same company. The CEO was very great and gracious and knew how to treat the office
Mm.
manager properly. It was the other company that I had assisted, that CEO was a little bit, they allowed the power to get to their head a little bit, I think. So,
Yeah.
but like until I got myself out of the toxic environment, I didn't even realize it was toxic. I thought it was just another day in the life of an office manager.
That I think is so common. Like if we don't know the difference, we can't have a vision for something different.
Mm-hmm.
And if we've been taught to assume that's normal, then, and everybody around us is treating us as, it's like, oh yeah, he said that, that's normal. It
Mm-hmm.
contributes to normalizing bad behavior.
Yeah.
So what now do you feel like has shifted that makes what you're creating so different for you?
So many things, actually. It just makes me smile thinking about how my life has changed since this. I would say now I mainly work with women. Actually, I solely work with women, for clarification. And I just find that the way that I get along with a woman is so much easier. We understand each other a lot more. The respect that I get,
Mm.
even when I'm full of ideas. That's kind of part of being, the assistant office manager in me. I
Yeah.
always am full of ideas of how to make things more efficient and how to make things better and how to save the CEO money and all of these other things. And I am always the first one to also say that, you don't always have to take my advice, because it is your business and ultimately you have the final say. Like you said, the CEO does have the visionary
Hmm.
power.
Hmm.
But just the way that my ideas get rejected now, or the way that most of the time, how thankful they are that I've come into their business, the impact I've made on the business, the changes I've made on their business. And that's really like what fuels my fire. Is I work with clients who are making an impact in empowering other women and making an impact in their business. And it just lights me up so much to know that I am changing other women's lives, that I'm making my CEO's life easier, that I'm really appreciated. There's now some of my clients just will randomly send me over gift cards because they're thankful. And I, by no means, it's not the gifts, it's the thought that really
Yeah.
for me is, or sometimes they'll send over sweet messages being like, Bai-Leigh,
Mm.
I'm so glad you're in my business. I'm so thankful for you, and that to me is everything. Like it's the little things that just make me feel so appreciated. And that is something that I feel like I was significantly missing in my previous job. Is I would come in, I would do my job. I knew I was doing it well, but I never got any recognition for that. And
Mm.
also the personality types that I was working with, I wasn't necessarily the best fit for that personality.
Mm.
And now it's complete 180. I look forward to going to my desk every day. And especially when you work from home, you definitely have to be disciplined in whatever you're doing. And I always love going to work in the morning, talking to my clients, getting my work done. the shift is just insurmountable. I even get up earlier than what I did when I was going to an office job to work. And I work significantly more as a business owner. You know that you work significantly more than you do. And I love every minute of it. I would not change it for anything.
That is so awesome. And I can hear and just experience the difference when you're talking about it too. Mm-hmm. It's really amazing. And I so appreciate that for you, and creating the vision for others of the possibility as well. I mean, that I think is really what it comes down to. And one of the reasons I love having these conversations, because I think there are women who, you know, maybe they just lost a job, but they don't know any different, or they're trying to find that next vision, or they're trying to find, you know, what is it that they're going to really love to do, and to know that the possibility exists of like, hey, I could have a really incredible income and enjoy it so much that I want to get out of bed in the mornings. Like that is a huge shift. And it's just beautiful. I just thank you for sharing that. It's really, really beautiful. And I'm curious too, one of the things I really enjoy hearing and asking my guests on these shows is, you know, if who you are today could sit down with the woman you were before you were fired, what would you tell her?
Oh my gosh, that is a good question. I think one of the main things I would tell myself is just that I was made for so much more than I realized. And it took a really traumatic time in my life to actually kind of like blossom into myself. And just the growth that I've seen in myself too over the last couple of years, just coming into my own, the confidence that I have gained from having my business. That's kind of like the main thing that I would say is just you're made for so much more than you realize. And I, in my wildest dreams, would not have thought that I would be where I am today right now at my age. So
well, awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a wonderful time in life to discover your potential and run with it. So very, very cool. So we are getting close to the end of our show today, but I want to make sure listeners have the opportunity to connect with you if they're interested. And, you know, what's the best way to do that?
I would definitely say head over to my Instagram. It's Valley Virtual Assistance, and ASSISTANCE. That is my business Instagram. And from there, you can get to my website. I do both. I am a virtual assistant. I'm also a virtual assistant mentor. So I do work with clients, and I also help and train and coach other virtual assistants in starting their business, and just knowing that I'm kind of who I was to myself 3 years ago, is that person who cheers you on, who knows your potential even if you don't see it, and allows you to really get to where you want to be in life instead of being in the toxic 9-to-5, because I have been there, I have done that. And I just want to help as many people as I can get out of that and just create a business that they love.
Nice. What a beautiful way to continue paying it forward and empowering other people to create their own dreams. I just love that. So cool. Well, thank you so much for being here, Bai-Leigh. It's been such a treat and a joy and an inspiration. And I just really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure talking to you about this.
Well, thank you. And for my listeners, if you've been inspired and uplifted by today's show, please share it with at least 3 other women you know who would be interested in being inspired and uplifted as well. And if you have a story of overcoming you'd like to share, I want to hear about it. So visit my website. It's loriannrising.com and find out how you can be a guest. And until next time, my friends, keep rising.